Hey guys, as you all know, a week ago I started this journey on YouTube where I thought, okay, I'll share some of my real estate experience with you guys and also share some insightful knowledge on the Canadian real estate space. But as I started this, I thought, oh, won't it be nice if you guys get to learn from my personal experience, how I came into Canada, some of my big wins, and some of the things that, I've experienced in Canada, from the cultural shock to heartbreaks to bad financial decisions. So I'll be sharing this with you guys. It's kind of personal, but I'm hoping that with this, maybe one or two people can learn. They can, avoid making the same mistakes that I made. And also, I'm hoping that, you can see that no matter where you currently are in your real estate journey, success is possible and delay is not really denial. To get started, I will talk about my experience from leaving Nigeria and coming to Canada at the tender age of 17. I think I just turned 18 when I first came to Canada. And why I decided to come to Canada. You will see what today the landscape of Canada is today, especially for new immigrants that are coming. You might be able to relate to some of the things I'm saying. Some of you might not, because it was a long time ago that I first came to Canada. So you might see that, a lot of the things, the experience that I had has probably changed a little bit from what you're currently experiencing today. Let's get started. Canada was not a choice for me. It wasn't the first choice. It was just something that I happened to dabble into. I had relations that have been in Canada, that lived in Canada and moved at a time to the States. So I've heard about Canada, but I really did not know what Canada was or what, the culture here was or what it was about. So one day, I'm from Benin City, by the way. So I was on a bike and I drove past Airport Road and I see this big sign say study in Canada. I mean, it resonated with me because at the time I was planning to study in the UK. And my parents were saying, oh, you're going to study in the UK or America. But when I saw Canada, I knew immediately I didn't want to go to the UK or US because everybody at the time from high school when they leave the country, they were either going to the UK or they were going to the US. And Canada in 2004 wasn't a popular choice for international students. So I did not want to follow the bandwagon. I asked my bike man to stop immediately and I walked into Better and they said, oh, yes, we can help you get admission. We can do this. We can do that. All you needed to pay, I think at the time, was 55,000 naira. So immediately I went home, told my mom about it. So she said, okay, go there, take the money, go pay, if that's what you want. Let's see if you get the admission. 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks later, I got the admission. And it was like a joke. My mom at the time wasn't available. So I called my uncle and he followed through with the process, took me to the embassy. So by the time my mom got back in the country, I'd already gotten an interview date set up. My uncle had already paid my visa fee and made everything available. He gave his account statement and acted as my sponsor. So I'd already paid. So it was just a matter of them showing up and taking me for my interview. So luckily, they decided to follow along because at the time my mom was very worried that we had nobody here to look after me. I was 17 years old. What are you going to do in Canada by yourself? No relations, nothing, no one here. I decided I was going to find myself a guardian. I decided to ask friends and family, do you know anybody in Canada? Do you know anybody in Canada? And eventually, a friend's auntie was visiting Nigeria and they said, oh, she's from Canada. It was like a dream come true because Mama said, well, if I can't hand you over to an adult, I'm not going to let you out of my sight. So immediately I went to see her and I told her, I've gotten my admission in Canada. I've got my visa appointment scheduled. But my mom is saying that if I get the visa, because she needed a guardian there, she wasn't going to let me by myself. Would you agree to be my guardian? If I could get my mom to come see you, would you say yes to being my guardian? She said, oh, sure. So I told my mom that evening we went to see her. And she said, you know what, I'll pick her up from the airport. She can stay at my place for a little bit until she's ready to go on her own. And my mom was like, okay, if you can do it. And my mom loved her, so I loved her too. So she agreed to take care of me. And she did. When I got my visa, she picked me up from the airport. I stayed with her. And she took care of me for the first couple of months. So that's how I found myself in Canada. So getting to Canada, like you already mentioned, I had nobody. I had no guardian. I was 17 years old. I think I just turned 18 actually. I'm 18 years old. It was back in 2004. There were not a lot of Nigerians in Canada at the time. Not as popular, not as much as they are today. So at my school, I met about 3 or 4 Nigerians. They were there. We were very close knit. So actually, Funny story. I was actually supposed to go to university because I was already in university in Nigeria. So when I stopped at Beta, which is the agency that I mentioned that I used for my admission, they told me that I was going to be going to Cambridge College. So in my mind, Cambridge College, Canada, was a subsidiary of the Cambridge University in the UK. So I told everybody that I was going to Cambridge University in Canada. When I got here, Cambridge College was a high school. So apparently, this agency had gotten me admission to go back to grade 12 after finishing high school in Nigeria. It was a big turnoff. But at the school, I did meet a lot of great Nigerian people. Like I met 3 Nigerian people who till this day were still friends. One of them is actually one of my best friends today. So immediately she was like, "Oh, we can live together." She had just come also from Nigeria. I think they came in January. I came in September. So they were a little bit more grounded. They knew the TTC system. They knew the subway. That's why it's very important for you to have support. I didn't have a lot of support. But I was blessed to have these people around me when I came into Canada. So they really helped me and made me feel comfortable. And that made Canada feel a little bit like home, just seeing people like me. Those early days were really tough. We scrabbled for food. We scrabbled for clothes. I have to change clothes every season. I mean, the clothes you use for the summer definitely will not work for winter. And I came in September. By the time I came, my guardian at the time had taken me shopping and bought me a few clothes that was okay for the weather. And in September, it's kind of warm, but it gets cold randomly. So we had a couple of sweaters, a couple of, summer-like clothes. You could throw a jacket over it and you'll be okay if it does get cold. And very quickly, the weather changed on me. The thing changed fast and I wasn't prepared for it. At that time, I'd already left to stay closer to school, so I was no longer with my guardian. So I left my guardian at the end of September. I think first week of October, I already had my own apartment. I'm staying close to school. So yeah, I had my roommate. My roommate was one of the girls that I met at the Cambridge College. So I knew that place wasn't a good fit for me. So by January or so, I think it was around January, I'd already applied to York University and I got my admission because I already had the qualification to go straight to university. It's just the agency that I met had just put me in college because they had an arrangement with that college to bring students from Nigeria, but I wasn't aware of that. So I got into York University. I was living with my roommate. One of the things that happened that I still remember till this day, we literally burnt down our landlord's home. We were cooking. At the time, we were really broke. So we had a friend. I think my uncle had called his friend who called a friend and they did groceries and they brought it to the house. So we're very excited. We were cooking and someone had told us, "Hey, do you know that if you do this, you can get $2,000? I'm like, "What is that?" She's like, "Oh, you can just go do clinical trials and you can get $2,000 just by doing one clinical trial." Oh boy. For me, I didn't have $100 in my hand. I left everything I was cooking. My friend and I ran into the bathroom just to get more understanding of what this clinical trial meant. So we started to call all the clinical trial numbers that we were given by our friends. Say, how much? I said, "Oh, we have."
Good night to you.
Okay, good night. Good night. No candy tonight. Drop it. Bring it. Taste from it, drop it. You will eat it tomorrow. No. If you move, give me that candy. You're not having it again. It's done. I'm throwing it away. Bring it now.
Magic bell.
Okay. Thank you. I can't remember what I was doing this. I think, and that's why I'm about to flog you now.
That's unrealistic. That's all. Sorry. You have some nerve to come right down here.
What is it?
Piece of my cotton candy.
Huh?
Maybe a piece of my cotton candy.
Can you do what?
Have a piece of my cotton candy.
Why? Because you were naughty, so I can't give it to you.
It's sorry.
Thing for food, you will beg. You can have a piece, and then go upstairs and go to bed permanently. So I was talking about how I brought down my landlord's house. Apparently, I was saying that I got a call from a friend who was telling me about ways that I could make money in Canada because at the time, international students were not allowed to work outside campus. And the campus jobs were very few. You'd be lucky to find any on-campus job at that time. So there was no way to get money apart from the pocket money that your parents are sending to you if you are lucky to have parents that can afford it. At that time, my parents really, they could only afford to send me $500 a month. My rent was $400. So all I had left was $100 to clothe, to eat, to do whatever I needed to do. So there was not a lot left. So I had to like find my way to get extra money. So when they were telling me about that, you bet that I would leave everything I was cooking and go to the bathroom so I wouldn't get any interruption. So all of us, we ran into the bathroom, forgetting what we had on the fire. And mind you, we've not eaten good in weeks. And someone just graciously paid for groceries and brought it to us. We left it on the fire. We ran into the bathroom to talk to the clinical trial. As we're having the conversation, we hear the fire alarm go off. We ran out of the bathroom and our kitchen was on fire. Before we knew what was happening, the fire trucks were there. The basement was like almost touched down. It wasn't as bad, but the entire living space was burnt out, like, smoke, black smoke everywhere. The fire truck put out the fire, and they actually fined the landlord because the basement was not a legal basement, and the landlord wasn't supposed to have the stove in the basement, so the venting wasn't good and all of that, and that's why the place caught fire, not even minding the fact that we ignored what we were cooking. So yeah, that was it. And that's how we actually survived, because I started to do clinical trial, yes. And that's how I survived those early days in Canada. At that time, we could get like $1,200, $2,000, $3,000 per clinical trial, depending on the one that you pick. Come September the following year, started attending York University. I couldn't stay at York because there was no money to pay the tuition. As an international student, my tuition was about $15,000 or $14,000. But yeah, that's a story for another day. So I had to take things a little bit slow with my education. I ended up after my first year, I took a break from school, and then I started again, I think 2 years later. In between, I wanted to do nursing because that's what everybody said was working. At the time, all the Nigerian immigrants in Canada were doing nursing. Even people were saying, oh, I'm going to go marry a nurse from Nigeria and bring her here so that she can do and be a nurse and, continue to do what I'm doing, and she'll be the one with a stable income. So that was what was going on. Everybody was doing nursing. Everybody was either a personal support worker or a nurse. And I'm a student, so I thought, I don't have any science background. And the only thing that was working in Canada was either was in the healthcare field. So I went back to high school again to try to get chemistry and physics so that I can, qualify to do nursing program in university. That dream died really, really fast. I spent a year wasting my time chasing that dream. Then I realized that, I wasn't just a science student. That's not what I want to be. I mean, I never grew up dreaming of becoming a doctor or a nurse. If there's anything I dreamt being was a lawyer. And so my diploma was actually in law at BIU. So I was doing law before I left Nigeria. Not a nurse or a doctor, not a science student, but because that was what was working in Canada, I gave it a shot. And that's the problem, right? Because if you don't know, you lose, right? So you snooze, you lose. So because everybody thought science was the way, I wasted years pursuing a dream that really wasn't for me. And by the time I realized, I went back to university and did what I originally wanted to do, I'd wasted time. And that time is something that I can never get back. But I'm hoping that it can save you from wasting the same time, because I know a lot of immigrants coming in here to Canada these days. And, the easy fix to get started, the job that you can get easily is as a personal support worker. And I see a lot of immigrants doing that. That's okay. If you just need it for the now. But I want you to know that you don't have to lose sight of your original dream. When you come in, you can actually be whatever you want to be, and you can continue to pursue your dream. It might seem steep. It might seem like, what? No immigrants in Canada can do this, or this field is usually not open up to immigrants. It is possible. You're in a country where the potential and the possibilities are endless. And I learned that the hard way because I was following the bandwagon again. I came to Canada because I did not want to follow the bandwagon, but then I came to Canada and started following the bandwagon, which is so funny. if you think about it. So yeah, fast forward to 3 years later, I went back to school. Took me a longer time because now I had a child. It was more difficult now to focus on my education, so it took me a little bit to actually get back in my grind, finish school and knock it out once and for all. In between that, I did a couple of jobs here and there, started my career in customer service, worked customer service, mastered the act of customer service, and eventually slowly worked my way up the corporate ladder. So that's pretty much in a nutshell my early days in Canada. So that's where I'm going to stop this because I don't want the video to be too long or get boring. Next time I'll talk about some of the struggles that I had, including ruining my credit and being in an abusive relationship and also being a single mother. So that's what we're going to start this time. So you want to make sure that you stay connected and follow me on my journey. Every week I'll share some bits of my journey and also some educational piece that you will learn from. Either way, there's something for you. So yeah, stay connected. Make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so that way you stay alerted when I put content on my YouTube channel. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate your time here. Bye-bye.